Hi, everybody. My name is Wes Sherman. I want to always start by saying thank you to Frank May and M Galleries for including me in any exhibition. I think that what the gallery is doing here is very special, and I'm glad to always be a part of what's going on here. I've been asked to talk about my work, so I'm going to talk about this piece, which is my piece, but not so directly this piece, but kind of the practice a bit for larger things. So if you checked out me on Google, you can just type in Wes Sherman or find me on Instagram or something. You'll see a lot of work. But my practice is I try to do things from observation. I think of myself as a plein air painter. Being in the location, looking at a thing, painting it. This is upstate New York at Great Camp Sagamore, where I do a lot of workshops in the summertime. And when I'm looking at the world, I try to not see it as it is, but as I am. A great kind of quote there. So I'm looking for certain things. I'm looking for maybe colors that are undercolors. I may be looking for patterns or systems that may show themselves, like maybe the bark of a tree, or maybe, you know, really highlighting the reds of underneath a trunk, or weird shapes that something might make. I'm looking for mystery, maybe blocking things out. I mean, that really takes up a lot of the space, and hopefully there's mystery that's there, or some antagonistic element that's in it. And then when the time is right, if a certain object reveals itself, I like to create this kind of diptych element. So the stone here is kind of relevant to this. It kind of reflects colors that are in here, but also highlights this rock. And so all of a sudden this rock plays really nicely here. And so I sometimes do that. That's like a once every 50 paintings kind of thing that maybe happens there. Being in a big group show like that's here at M Gallery, I would say that while I'm talking about this rock and its relationship here, when I stand in an exhibition like this, and I know Frank has taken time to consider size and shape and imagery of everything that's on the wall. So while I might find relationships inside of something small like this, I'm also now trying to pull and connect to what is happening in the spaces around it, and starting to find connections. Because when you are on a wall and you're adjacent to something else, it's the natural tendency to look for those connections. So it's very exciting to see this striping and the patterning that's happening in this piece in relationship, you know, to what's happening here. But you can also then start to pick up that relationship here, or color choices in this piece here, and how color choices are here. So, or patterning, you know, this all of a sudden, there's just all of these, you know, touchstones that can start to be made. And that's the fun thing about a group show, is how that the context of one piece of work is now informed by the other pieces of work. And so this salon style that's happening here is a lot of fun in reading all the work that's here, and then seeing how my work is being recontextualized by the work around it. I've end by just saying I know a lot of these artists, and it's really fun to see their work in this context, and it's always exciting to be with you know, good, rigorous, thought-provoking artists. And so thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Hi, my name is Terri Fraser, and I am here at M Galleries in this amazing group show of how many artists?
35, 36-ish right now.
Holy moly, so many amazing artists. And I'm just tickled pink to be included in this. And Frank has generously put up some old work of mine. I can't tell you when I made it because I don't remember. And some very new work, a few years, and then some very new work. I can tell you that my art is always based from nature, and it's usually about the connections that we have as human beings with nature and how that all works and all the things that go along with it. I have progressed from being a painter with found objects like cicada wings,
Mm-hmm.
to a more upcycled, found, foraged, whatever I can utilize piece, which is over here, which has a couple different elements in it. And
I just want to say, I'm very excited to see that. I love your evolution, by the way.
you love my
I love
evolution?
your evolution. It's really perfect. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Not as much color, though. Not as much color. However, yeah, so mixed media, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional. Nothing in here is 3-dimensional, but I play between the two of them. And I will utilize pretty much anything. They might be suspended from the ceiling. They might be on the wall. And
Well, it's definitely relief. You know, this is a relief. You went from more traditional paint on surface to relief in objects. So that's very.
it's more sculptural.
Okay.
It's a 2-dimensional sculpture, a wall sculpture. I love wire.
Yeah.
These have upcycled old fence,
Yeah.
wire, cardboard, gut, found objects, whatever I find. I like circles a lot still.
That's
so
you know,
yeah.
The grid is still there and the circle's still there. It's just you're kind of obliterating it a little bit more.
Yeah, I can't.
Deconstructing it more.
I can't let go of that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet. I still don't know what it is. But I'm still completely enthralled with little circles. Anything that's around, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. And yes, I am that weirdo that walks down the sidewalk and goes, I have to get this, hold on. And I come back. So I get to be around with all these people in this amazing show. And I'm just sitting here going, oh my God, there's so much art. It's so amazing. And if you want to see more of my work, you can go to my Instagram page. It's Terri Fraser Studio. And thank you again, Frank. I really appreciate being a part of it. So, and putting up with my crazy.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Frank. And it's wonderful to be a part of this show and any M Gallery's endeavor.
Thank you.
M Gallery's you. And thank you for the tour. It's a lovely show.
Of course.
My name is Nova Darkstar, and I'm a visual artist, a musician, and a performance artist, and also a member of Collective, which is an artist collective that Frank's also a member of. And my contribution to the pop shop is a Fox Star, one of 5, a series of 5, which is a part of a larger body of work that includes video, music, drawings in the form of a coloring book, and these smaller sculptures, wall sculptures, reliefs, collages, I don't know what to call them.
Yeah, relief sounds good.
And the genesis of this series in the larger body of work has been my emergence as a trans and non-binary person just in the last 2 years. And art making has really played a critical role in supporting that emergence. It's by being able to put my hands on materials and work with materials, I was able to make tangible some intangibles of self. And so in making these dolls, for instance, these rock stars, I was able to play with my gender representation, my gender identity and expression within the safety and fun and explorative atmosphere of my studio, and literally try on different identities in a playful way. And as I made this series of rock stars, again, there are 5 of them, this is one of them, I realized, I'm actually subconsciously drawing on my sister's paper dolls. Some of you might be familiar with these paper dolls that you can fold onto them different outfits. Yeah. And so that sense of interchangeability, of being able to play with gender, play with gender expression definitely folds into, so to speak, this Rockstar series. And so, yeah, again, just the process of emerging as Nova has been both ecstatic and also hair-raising, if I had hair. Okay. scary at times and deeply unsettling. And art making has been my safe space within which to grapple with that and explore, and again, kind of make myself according to who I feel myself to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allows, it's like you can get away with a lot with regard to what you make for art and what you put in a gallery, like more than you can, like just walking around on the street. So the rock stars really are like farther out than I am in the way that they dress, and so that's been fun to do. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or have a discussion if folks would like to.
Yeah, have any questions for Nova?
Well, I do. Do you folks have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Well, hello, Nova. It's always a joy to see you. I was privileged enough to see work from one of your previous shows with it. My Home is Your Home. I believe that was the name of it.
Yes.
And you had not yet emerged as Nova yet. I think you might have been in the process of starting that. And what I would like to ask is, now that you have embraced that and art has become your safe space for the exploration of your identity, emergence, how have you grown as a person because you've had that art expression as an outlet and a safe space? How has that impacted you as a person?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm just kind of more myself and more at ease with myself, more happily myself, and I hope that the kind of the connection between my home and is your home and this other work. I mean that installation was so much about creating a safe space of belonging in a world that's divisive, to create a space of welcome where we could all connect and relate. And this work, in addition to the way that it impacts me, my hope is that by being in the gallery space, within which trans and queer folks have some representation, but it tends to be marginal. By being that person in this space, that a trans and queer person may come in and feel seen, and see themselves in the work, and so feel a sense of belonging in a random space in the world. So that's part of my hope. So it's both. The work both is creating more of a sense of belonging for myself, within myself, and I hope by representing myself somewhat fearlessly, that it creates that sense of belonging for other folks as well, and maybe invites people to expand their own circle of belonging, regardless of their various identities, or to even question and explore identity in general. Not just related to gender, but maybe the work can give people permission to just be more fully themselves, whatever that is for them.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Nova. So Elie just arrived. So perfect timing. So speaking of this is the sister he's referring because we're discussing. I'm assuming they meant you. As like he said, their sister. Was a source. Or, right. So
Hola, can you see me?
You want to ask Nova a question? Oh, sorry.
Hello, sibling. I don't have a question actually.
Okay, good.
It's just always
Come into the screen more where I can see you. There you are.
Yeah, it's just always wonderful to see you.
Not just once a week on Zoom.
Yeah, right. No, I don't have any questions. I think I know your work very well, and I'm glad I caught the tail end of it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, great. Anything we need to talk about since we're here together?
Since we're having a private moment.
Yeah.
There is that thing. There is that one thing.
We'll talk later.
Okay, later.
Okay, well, thank you. And I just want to give an extra special thank you to Frank May for hanging up my work. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a really weird year. A year ago, January 22nd and 29th, I had brain surgery.
Yeah.
I retired from teaching.
During your show.
Right after my show, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I had retired from teaching, and then a week later collapsed, and they found a tumor on my pituitary gland. But I had the brain surgery on the 22nd of January of 2024. Had to go back on the 29th for some complications. They put a 70,000 RPM drill up my nose, and which is fun. Luckily, I was out, so I don't remember it. But recovery was a slow process, but I'm back to being mostly normal old me, and it's good to be back. So I'm a retired English teacher. I taught English for 25 years, 20 of which I was at Warren Hills right here in Washington. And it was a great experience. But this is my second act.
Yeah.
And so my education in art came courtesy of my dad, Jerry Horn. And he was a microbiologist working for this pharmaceutical company called Ciba-Geigy. But his true passion was making pictures. He was hired by different local newspapers as a stringer. And I never saw him as happy as I did while he was holding his camera. I must have been about 6 or 7 when he began his hobby with the papers, and many nights I would sit by the sink in the bathroom off of the kitchen while he developed his negatives in this silver canister, tapping it against the wall, tap, 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 to release the air bubbles so they wouldn't ruin the negatives. After we would go down into the basement where he would print his pictures, he had this humongous behemoth enlarger and Kodak photo paper. And I'm still transported back into that basement every time I smell fixer and stop bath chemicals used in developing film. I don't know if anybody has smelled that. Smells awful and horrendous, but it smells like my childhood.
In the best way.
Exactly. Yes. So my dad saw how interested in photography I had become, and he bought me this Kodak Instamatic camera. This is the very one. Did you have one? Yes, it took I think it's 136 film. I don't think they make it anymore, but if they do, I'm buying a roll.
Yeah. I bet you can find it somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Somewhere deep in the archive. Maybe
Get a grip. Yeah, you can buy like a breaker bar, a saw, and some 136 film. So I would use this thing to photograph all kinds of weird stuff. For my birthday, I was a huge Beatles fan, so my folks would get me cakes with miniature figures of the Beatles on them. So I'd photograph them like they were in concert. My friends riding their bicycles, and my next door neighbor, Shirley, in her nightgown in the morning and curlers sweeping off her porch. And she was less than thrilled to be one of my subjects. She's like, "What, you never saw anybody sweeping their porch off before?" No. Soon after, my dad gave me a 35 millimeter Bessler Topcon camera, which unfortunately, I don't know where it went, but I was hooked with that thing. He and I would go out shooting together, everything from neon signs on Route 22 in Springfield, which is east of here, to buildings in the streets of New York City. He taught me about long exposure. Long after I saw, not long after I saw a picture of Pablo Picasso painting a picture with a flashlight. I don't know if you've ever seen this one, but it looks like a bull. It's pretty cool. We set up in our living room, and he showed me how to keep the shutter open on the camera while he waved a flashlight around. And by the way, part of my education in art came also from my dad, who had lots of coffee table books of art, not just photography. And I was particularly interested in Picasso's Guernica, which is a picture of a Spanish village being bombed during World War II. Madrid lent the picture to the Metropolitan Museum of Art when I was 7 years old. And my dad said, "We're going to see this." So I'm like, yes. Wow. So we went into the city, we saw it. I'm standing in front of it. And I'm like, "Dad, is that the real one?" And he's like, "Yes, it is." And I'm like, "You mean if I were to touch that, I would be touching the paint that Pablo Picasso used?" And he's like, "Yes, but..." As soon as he said that, I was up on the other side of the velvet rope, touching the painting. No. And the guards screamed louder than I've ever heard anybody scream before in my life. Yeah, that was crazy. I touched Guernica, this finger.
There are critics that think that's the only good Picasso painting.
Really?
Yeah. Like, all the other ones are bullshit. That one's a real painting.
That's one of my favorites. Well, hey, Three Musicians is pretty darn good.
I'm not saying I think that. I'm saying that there's I think Simon Schirra,
okay,
our critic, He said that's the only real.
Well, the emotion in that painting and
It's a masterpiece.
it's fantastic. Just the dying babies. And it's,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, not a funny painting by any stretch of the imagination. So also brutal is my dad dying in 2020, and I wish you could have seen. I had a solo show here in January, as I just said. I wish you could have seen that, as well as this awesome pop shop with all of this great artwork hanging around. He would have been really, really proud. And I know that when I clicked the shutter on the Nikon F2 film camera that I inherited from him and the 1957 Yashica twin lens reflex, like he's with me, like guiding me and grounding me in my work. I began my quest for street photography faces about 10 years ago with a project in which I wanted to photograph a majority of the people in downtown Easton. And it was based on Brandon Stanton's project, Humans of New York. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah, really, really cool. So Stanton encouraged anyone and everyone in a spirit of camaraderie to document the people in their areas and to gather and publish their stories. So for about 3.5 years, I went around town. I shot hundreds of people walking the Easton streets, and I asked them about their feelings and wants and needs and desires and dreams. And in this milieu, they truly became people to me, not just shadows walking beside me, as you know, everybody is when they walk by you. It's not like they're real people. They're just like these backdrops in your day. And these people became real people. On my website, blinkpics.net, you can see the results of that. The pictures are okay. They're not the best, but I evolved a little bit. So there's a lot of good stuff going on in the art world today, but unfortunately our relationship with technology and social media, I feel, have kind of tainted parts of it. Instagram is an awesome venue on which to exhibit your latest pieces, but we've become overly reliant on what other people think of our work and are they approving of our work? And Instagram seems to drive that. So we kind of become discouraged if we don't get as many likes as we want, and our sense of self-worth kind of plummets. And me as a 57-year-old guy, it's not fun when not a lot of people press the like button. So I can imagine what it feels like for younger people who try to keep up with this curated stuff online. So, and what is our purpose in posting the work in the first place? Is it to become popular or go viral? Is it to gain a huge following, or is it just to share what we're doing with the world and hope someone who sees it makes some sort of connection to it or feels some sort of inspiration from it? One positive of social media is the exposure it gives to non-traditional art and artists. American art museums for a long time tended to exhibit just the works of the canon of the cis white men. And there is, of course, beauty and inspiration to be found in their art. But, Picasso, Van Gogh, Dali, they've had unquantifiable influence, but there are so many diverse voices to be heard as well. There's Sunil Gupta, an LGBTQ photographer from London who photographed the gay community there. According to nga.gov, South African photographer Zanele Maholi's series Faces and Phases focuses on their country's Black, lesbian, and queer community. In the black and white photographs, posed subjects look directly at the camera. It's really, really powerful. And it's a space for people to be visible, respected, and recognized. So one of the best uses of art today, I feel, is social justice. And you've probably noticed in the beginning of Tom and Jerry cartoons, all the MGM movies, the famous roaring lion, but what you might not have noticed, the Latin words over the lion's head says ars gratia artis, which means art for art's sake. And the implications of this philosophy are that art should just basically exist in a vacuum, and it has no responsibility to cure any of society's ills or comment on them even. But in our world, rather than ars gratia artis, we need a mindset of ars enim omnia causa, or art for everyone's sake. When we adopt this philosophy, we're able to assure that what we're looking at helps us become a better society in some way. We can use our talents in order to make life better. I think that's what we're here for on Earth. And if we can find a way to do that, then we should. So my influences, it might sound counterintuitive because photography and mixed media is visual. I get most of my inspiration through music. Many times when I'm making pictures, I have my earbuds in and I'm listening to the Grateful Dead, which if you know me, you know that's my jam. But they set the right tone for shooting. Jerry Garcia, who is the lead guitarist for the Dead, would let his solos go like every which way. He didn't really, I don't think, planned for the most part where his solos would wind up. He just kind of let his instincts and his ear lead the way, and then he followed them with all that he had, and he came up with heartfelt brilliance. And that's what I hope to achieve when I'm creating. I know I'm far from brilliant, but having this music in my ear, just kind of, it's like Jerry whispering to me, "Come on, you can do this. Let's create." And I don't usually have a plan beyond knowing that I'm going to be capturing the people that I'm going to be wandering the streets with. I let the day take me where it will. I feel that sometimes if you plan too heavily, you miss out on opportunities that throw themselves into your path. This says the guy who came with a typed piece of paper, and I'm reading off it. But you might not have noticed them if you've been with, okay, today I'm going to capture such and such. There's a line from the Dead song, Scarlet Begonias. Once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And that's what life brings to us. Street photographers who I love. Stand on the shoulders of quite a few. Vivian Maier, prolific in the 50s through the 80s in New York City and Chicago, I believe. We just saw an exhibit of hers at Fotografiska, a museum in New York, and it was just incredible. They had her original Rolleiflex there, her twin lens reflex. Yeah. And she was not classically trained. She was just an amateur. When she died, she had like 150,000 undeveloped pictures. Yeah. Yep. And
she just took them.
She took them. So, and that also leads us to the question, is the joy in clicking the shutter, or is it in seeing what you've taken, or is it in seeing, and we talked about this, in seeing what other people think of when they're looking at our work. So where is the joy, or is it in all of these things? I'm attracted to the macabre, and there's one photographer in particular who I love. It's Deanne Arbus. And she found inspiration in the faces and bodies of those around her. Many of her pictures are quite dark and foreboding. There's Boy with a Toy Hand Grenade, Jewish Giant. This is a humongous guy in a very small, cramped apartment. Identical Twins, which is the inspiration for Stanley Kubrick's twins in the movie The Shining. Yeah. Look that up, Identical Twins. It's really, really a cool picture. Very, very, disjointed. Let's see. Smithsonian magazine called Arbus a photographer of freaks. That's I think in my eulogy, I want people to say he was a photographer of freaks, and included he was a freaky photographer of freaks, and said she'd become something of a freak herself over the course of her career. And unfortunately, she ended her own life at age 48 in 1971. Others like Henri Cartier-Bresson, who talked about the decisive moment, Gary Winogrand, Lee Friedlander, all of these great street photographers. Jamel Shabazz is an amazing street photographer. Gordon Park, who was also a movie director. Gordon Parks, who was also a movie director too. Why do I do what I do? I'm not sure exactly what it is that drives me to keep clicking the camera shutter, but it is a drive. It's not an option. Like, I have to do it. I have to click the shutter. I have to make art. If I don't do it, I'm not happy. And I think a lot of what it is the diversity of faces that I see in the world, and my desire to document them. And that's why I have difficulty categorizing myself as to what kind of artist I am. I'm a mixture of street photographer, street portraitist, mixed media artist. Half the time I roam the streets with my camera, I'm looking for that decisive moment. As a street photographer, you got to predict what's going to be important enough to take at the moment. Is that Bresson? That's Bresson. Yeah, yep, the decisive moment. Yeah, and you have to be able to predict it, which is kind of crazy. You have to, you look through your lens and be like, oh, okay, now. And exactly, you spray and pray, as they say. But you also have to be part of the background too, and not interfere with the life that's manifesting itself. But at the same time, I'm also looking to stop people in the streets and get to know them. These are the ones whose portraits I make. And whether portrait or candid, though, the most important element in photographing a subject is to make a connection. The difference between a good image and an amazing image is the connection the viewer feels with the subject. And that's why I try to establish a relationship with my subjects. The better the relationship, the better the chance that you, as the viewer, are going to be there with a personal connection. So like I said, I know that when I'm making art, I'm a happier and more fulfilled person. And sometimes I just kind of stare at some of the pictures I've taken. The one across the way is of a guy with a lucky hat. And there's just something about him staring into my eyes, and he allowed himself to be vulnerable with me, you know, and I kind of still get that feeling every time I look at that picture. He was just like, I asked him if I could take his picture. He was coming out of a dollar store, and he said, okay. And he just gave that look, you know, it's a very ascetic kind of look. So I'm trying to figure out what can bring us all together into each other's worlds, if only temporarily. Finally, as a street photographer, portraitist, I'm at the mercy of what the street offers me on any given day. I look at the variety of faces and bodies as a gift of fate. It's my job to take what is in front of me and show it in the most revealing light. So, since recovering from my brain surgery, I've realized that I'm not getting any younger and that play is important, even for old guys like me. And for me, art is play. I mean, come on, watercolors and colored wire and glue sticks and torn pieces of the New York Times. Come on, you know, this is awesome. 1,000 times yes. I've been wanting to see how I could bring my photography to a more exciting plane. I get bored easily. And there were no more excuses as to why I shouldn't do it. And it's funny because I have no idea what I'm doing. I really don't. Which, you know, I don't know, you might be able to tell from looking at my work.
I love the wire mohawk.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, you know, the guy had a real mohawk. I'm like, why not wire it? But I know, you know, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and even if I don't know what I'm doing. Hell, I'm probably doing it wrong, but I'm having fun. And I plan to take some online classes at Maine Media in the state of Maine. It's an incredible college, and there's a multimedia class on Zoom coming up, which my wife is going to get for me Santa is going to get for me for Christmas. Yep. And I want to get some more guidance. So we'll see how that influences what I do. I've had a bunch of help from the art teachers at Warren Hills, especially Terri Fraser, who has been incredible. Encouragement from Frank and Lane and everybody who's come in to see my pictures, my wife, and my friends and family, and it's just been an incredible experience. So I would love to hear your opinions and steal some of your inspiration. So my email is sidewiththeseeds@gmail.com, sidewiththeseeds, SEEDZ @gmail.com, or you can go to my website, blinkpix.net, BLINKPIX.net, and tell me what you think. And if I can answer any of your questions on these outlets, please let me know. I would be happy to do so. And thank you again, Frank, for having me and for having my work up here. It really, truly means a lot.
Thank you. That was great. So just real quickly, can you just speak to the piece behind you?
Hi, peace. Yes, this was taken outside of the Stone Pony in Asbury Park. There was a guy standing there with a mohawk. And I like the picture as it is. This was taken with my 1957 Yashica twin lens reflex. So this is film. But again, you know, I was talking about wanting to bring my artwork to a different level. And it's not that, you know, I'm getting bored looking at my pictures, but I'm getting a little bored looking at my pictures. So I'm like, what can I do? And, you know, the idea of 3D kind of excites me, bringing it like out into another dimension. Wire, the woman I mentioned, Terri Fraser, the teacher at Warren Hills, said, you know, why don't you try working with wire? Because I wasn't sure what media to use. And she said, wire's a great thing. So I wired up the gate over here, his mohawk, a few strategically placed wires around the acrylic paint over there. And I like the way it looks. I think it's kind of cool. I just like it went from black and white to this really like flamboyant, colored, sparkling, gold, glittery kind of thing.
Pop direction.
Exactly. Yeah. It did a 180 or a 360. I'm not sure. But yeah. So that's that piece, and I really like that one. And the weird thing too is that if it sells, I will never see it again or never be able to touch it again. And there's a song by a group called Wilco, and they talk about what was yours is now everyone's. And I think that's a pretty cool concept. So I got to learn how to say goodbye to my stuff.
Yeah, it's like a different mentality because prints you can keep remaking, but
exactly.
when you make something like a painting or a mixed media piece, it's unique. You know, it's extra unique.
It's a labor of love while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you put so much energy into it and time and love, you know, and then you got to learn to say goodbye. Kind of like with kids. Exactly. They're like all my kids, except I don't have to put this through college, which is good.
Thank you. So anybody have questions for Kevin? You wanna...
No, that was incredibly thorough. I'm good.
You're saying it was long, yeah.
No, it was just.
Well, there might be something, that
Yeah.
that wasn't brought up. So
Normally I have something.
I always like to
but
open it up to the room.
It was wonderful.
Thank
So
you.
what was the class that you're going to be taking?
Yeah, just repeat
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
What was the class you're going to be taking?
I'm not sure of the name of the class, but it is about mixed media and working with photographs as a base and then using paint and gouache, which is what, a mixture of watercolors and acrylic, I think, or maybe even wire. Like, I don't know if I've done already what they're going to be teaching, but it looks like a really, really interesting course. And the woman teaching it is a really renowned artist. And I'm really, really excited to do that. And they offer a lot of great courses at Maine Media. And I haven't taken one yet, but this is exciting. Thank you.
I really like, how you've done everything. And so I don't want to say I wouldn't want you to lose that in a way, but I don't know.
Well, thank you.
Well,
When I
it's
told,
about gaining.
Yeah, gaining.
That's what,
right.
that's what education does.
right.
To me, it's additive.
And like I have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't know if I should keep it that way or if I should learn. I told my English students that you have to learn the rules before you break them.
Yeah.
So here I am
guess,
breaking the rules
just
before I'm
leave it
learning.
in the little back of your mind.
It's like a tool in a toolbox.
Yeah, because this is really actually really, it's very touching. It's a really great.
Oh, thank you. So that's what you get from it is a.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's also your words. You have voices.
Yeah.
Called today,
Yeah.
and you kind of touch on. There's a lot going on in his face.
Yeah, what's being looked at over there is one of my pictures with the lucky hat and torn newspaper around his face. Just for those watching this.
So I'll share it because this quote is very aligned with what you're talking about. One of my favorite quotes of all time from an artist is from Peter Volkus, who's a very well-known ceramic artist, and this is a fantastic quote. And it goes, "The minute you begin to understand what you're doing, it loses that searching quality. You have to forget about the little technical problems that don't matter. You've overcome them long ago anyway." So I think
that's heavy.
That's a great quote. I love that
really,
quote.
Yeah.
So, but just wanted to share that with you. So Kevin,
Thank you.
For a really wonderful, mini talk here about your work. We really appreciate you being here and being part of the show. So thank you.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you everybody for being.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
So we were all at the Billy Collins readings the other night.
Yes.
And I wrote down one thing he said, which kind of piggybacks on what you just said. Just because you don't know what you're doing doesn't mean you aren't doing it.
Yes. Yes. There you go. Yeah. And he is one of my heroes. He was great the other night, wasn't he? He was fantastic.
Yeah, we're talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really great opportunity. So thank you, Elie. Thank you, Kevin. So
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. And more applause.
Yay.
Very welcome.
All right. Hi. I'm Elie Porter Trubert, and it's great to be here. Thank you, Frank, for another year of the Pop Shop.
You're very welcome.
My website is ellieportertrubert.com, and my Instagram is the same thing, Elie Porter Trubert. So the work I have here, there are 4 different pieces, and they're all basically the only visual work I've made since I graduated from a master's degree at UNM. So that was my second act. Thank you. So I thought I was going to continue my thesis work in much the same way I had been doing it for a year and a half, and found out that I actually needed a break and started doing small pieces that were inspired by pocket shrines and talismans, and also by my own thesis work, which had a spiral and circular motif, and by petroglyphs and rock formations in New Mexico. So the first ones I did after graduation were these, and these are all spiral forms. And the idea was that you'd have it on your desk or were in your pocket, and you could trace this spiral as sort of a meditation. These are made from New Jersey clay, wild clay, and fired in New Jersey. So those were all a spiral formation. Then the next one I did were variations on this form, which were inspired by an amazing place in northwestern New Mexico called the Bisty Badlands, where it's basically a desert, but there are these huge boulders, and they have spirals and circles carved into them from the elements.
Yeah. We saw pictures of those. Those are incredible.
So it was
it's hard
one
to
of the
believe.
most incredible places
It's hard to believe
I've ever been.
that's natural. Yeah.
So that's what these represent, was, spiral, but in layers. These tiny little ones were done on the beach, and I brought this New Jersey clay to the beach in New York and basically broke off little pieces and stuck them in the sand and squeezed them in my fist, thinking about how, even though we're on vacation in a beautiful place, we're bringing all that stuff with us. So I made a whole bunch of these on the beach. Yeah, kind of worked that out. So those 3 series were all made with New Jersey clay from the same location near the Jersey Shore. And then the last series were these, and I call these musky talismans. And these are made from clay that I found along the Musconetcong River. And on the inside of them is glass that, for some reason, along the trail, there's a place where people like to smash bottles. So I'm constantly picking it up because it bothers me that it's there. And I walk a dog who has bare little paws. So I've been collecting this glass for a while. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll make it into something beautiful and combine the clay from the area with the glass. And so it results in these tiny little
And they look
Pocket.
very inviting.
yeah, you can hold them.
Yeah, they're meant to be held, right?
And those are also intended to be kind of in a pocket. So my dad always had what he called a thumbing stone that he would keep in his pocket, and he'd find one at the beach and he'd say, "Oh, this is good thumbing stone," and it would be the right size to hold in your hand and just kind of rub your thumb over, and he would keep it in his pocket. So I always think about that. These might be a little large, but they could be with you, and you could
That's right.
work the spiral.
Absolutely.
So they're all really just personal meditative pieces. However, one person described them as adult fidget toys.
Fidget spinners.
Yeah, right. Which I like that too.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what these 4 pieces are.
Nice. And do you want to talk about, you just had a show at Whittemore, which is a nice solo show.
Yeah.
Really stunning. So that's
Thank you.
a place not far from here, right?
Yes. I just showed my entire thesis installation at Whittemore, and which was great because I wanted to show it in New Jersey.
That's right.
And have,
because it's New Jersey
everyone
clay.
see.
That's his home.
It's from New Jersey. Yeah. In fact, some of the photographs I've done of the installations, and I showed them in New Mexico, they were just so out of place in New Mexico. And it was just a foreign landscape, the way that's a foreign landscape to us. They're like, it's so green and it's so wet. And so it's definitely New Jersey work. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And then there was also an interactive piece that I call a call and response, where the entire thesis work was based on my journals, my personal journals that I've written for almost 50 years. And in one gallery, I had passages from different journals on the wall, and visitors were invited to respond with their own sharing and place it on the wall next to mine. And so that's something I'm thinking about next, is how to work on that community project. And we're going to try something at our next collective meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can see all that at your Instagram, right? So there's a bunch of pictures.
Yes.
So at Elie Porter Trubert.
Yep.
Yeah, for Instagram.
Not on my website yet, but it'll be on there soon. But yeah, all the installation photos are on my Instagram.
Awesome.
So
All right. Anybody have any questions for Elie? Oh, yeah.
So I love your pieces,
Thank you.
and for someone with anxiety and who needs stuff like that, that really looks like it would be very therapeutic. So last time I was here, there was another clay artist, and he was talking about like the mining of clay and do you mine your own clay? Do you
I don't
find
like
it?
that
all right?
word.
Well, not maybe not maybe not mine. Like, do you
I try to
find?
take a non-extractive approach to working with natural materials. So I do work with natural materials, including clay. And before I started working with wild clay, I was working with branches and sticks and stones and sand and shells and pods and all manner of natural materials. But yes, so I do source the clay and try to be really careful about not taking more than I need and leaving something in exchange. So it's a reciprocal relationship. But yes, ultimately, it's an extractive process.
Okay, and I didn't mean to use a
No.
derogatory word.
I just want to point it out.
Right. Yeah. I didn't picture you with like shovels and strip mining and. So you're able to like look at the ground and be like, yeah, there's definitely clay there. Like, how does?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Now I am. Part of the program I was in involved working with ceramic artists and indigenous artists who very generously showed us how to identify clay in different areas, after runoff or when it's very dry or what it looks like, how to test it. So it's a lot of trial and error for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's everywhere.
Thank you, Kevin. That was a great question. So any other questions for Elie before we move on? Well, Elie, thank you. That was a really
Sure, thanks.
wonderful explanation of the work.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
All right. Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Martha Wirkijowski. I'm an oil painter. I graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design, and I primarily focus on making oil paintings. A lot of my oil paintings are very representative, and what I'm very known for are my nightscape oil paintings.
Mhm.
But whatever we see featured here is not particularly nightscape oil paintings, but it's actually something referenced for a video game.
Mhm.
So I was just wanting to show off something a little bit more different, a little bit more experimental, but like something that I'm very familiar with in terms of my subject matter and my medium.
So can you speak to so this is a custom or an original character based off of a video game. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's based off of this video game called Elden Ring. It's actually kind of my favorite video game I've ever played so far. What's really funny is that this is not my first video game oil painting. So the one I made previously was from the Sonic Adventure 2. So I was like, I just made these oil paintings based off this video game, Sonic Adventure 2, and then I was like noticing, I'm like, wait, this is realistic enough, and I'm actually like really enjoying making oil paintings from this. So I decided to just like divulge into making more oil paintings and like kind of work it with more video games and make it even more customary. That's why I decided to do this shiny Fento painting, which is my custom character, into another video game.
Yeah, very interesting. I have, when I teach, a lot of time. I know students like to kind of take a series that they love, like a character series, like animes and manga is very popular, and also video games, and you're doing exactly what I recommend. It's like, don't do a character, like make up in the language of Pokemon, in the language of whatever thing you want to do. So I think that's a really great example. I didn't realize that. I thought that was, I'm not familiar with the game. I thought that was like a character, from the game that you're referencing. So, but yeah, and can you speak to the process? Like, you really have an exquisite way of painting, So I think I want to touch on that a little bit here.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a very fun process for me. So like I'm kind of like mixing between like the very like European inspired style of like this video game with like kind of my technique of making like a Bruegel kind of ish kind of work. But like more a technical sense. So like this is an oil painting, and I like to do lots of washes, lots of like very translucent kind of style with my oil painting work. And this particular cutscene in this video game has like a lot of glowing, a lot of atmosphere going on with it. So I try to like emulate my oil painting technique into this one particular cutscene, into this oil painting. And like I love India yellow. It's like my favorite color. And that's where you get that yellow glow into my work. And I kind of like build it up and see where I can get, and just like build up with other translucent colors along with it.
Nice. Yeah. And what was the? So you kind of toggle between a few different ways of thinking. Can you speak a little bit about the? Because I think I'll bring out, because I have an example of what you're referencing. I'll bring that out in a few minutes after. But can you speak to the other process of? I really love that aspect of it too, like finding these. I would call them like unloved spaces. That you really kind of celebrate. Like the down an alleyway or in a dumpster. I love your dumpster paintings. So it's like there's the quote that Wes Sherman, we hear from him a lot, and he's it's that it's not what you paint, it's how you paint. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. Especially for this oil painting in particular, I'm not really trying to copy the image from the video game. I am trying to emphasize and emulate the feeling, and like just the feeling of what I've achieved into this particular moment in this video game. So like this particular moment right here is just like, this is like the end game. This is like you basically became Elden Lord. This is like the best of the best right here, and I'm trying to like evoke that moment, evoke that mood, with that atmosphere. Even though it's not like the most fantastic thing. It's just a video game final cutscene, but like I tried to make it feel like something much more monumental.
Yeah. It's got that, because this doesn't exist this is not a game, right? This is like your this is your invention, right? This is not part of a game, right?
Exactly.
But you're imagining it as a cutscene for a game, right? So it kind of reminds me. Do you know Cindy Sherman? She's a photographer, and she did these pieces called untitled film stills, where the photograph was her imagining this one slice in this feature length film, but the film doesn't exist. But she created that one slice in the film as a photograph, and you're trying to imagine, what came before it and what came after it. Like it evokes those feelings. So I think this is a good example of kind of playing with that idea, is that this is a slice of something that's non-existent. I really love that. So but yeah. So anybody have any questions? Are anyone familiar with the game? No.
No, but I am familiar with the work.
Oh yeah. You want to have a question for Martha?
Well, I'm curious. Yeah. Hi, Martha. It's Blaine. I don't know if you can see me or not.
Yeah, if you want to stand up.
Can you see?
I can see you. I see you.
Okay, yay! You look like you're doing well. I actually, I've been following your work online for a while, but I've actually kind of fallen away from that because I had some family issues I've been dealing with for the past year. And I was curious as to what you are working on currently, because you work on a lot of things. People don't know that you also do book publication. Right. And so I had been following your graphic novels that you were working on, which were fantastic. Frank and I have one of them at the house. And then we were looking at your nighttime landscape paintings, which are wonderful. The way you layer color and you use those translucent colors to build up depth within the image. I really love that about your paintings. I could just look at them for hours. So I was just curious, what have you been working on currently, and what can we expect from you in the near future?
That is an amazing question, Lena. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, honestly, I'm working on so many different things, and I can't really delve into one thing at a time. Something I've been particularly interested in is just working back to the basics, and that is a lot of graphite work, a lot of working with Bristol. Something that I think is just a much more therapeutic. In comparison to oil painting, it's that is just based on my experience. I feel like a lot of people have it a different way. But yeah, lately I've been doing a lot of. I think I've been just working on this. Just
An
drawing
example.
particular.
a little peek,
Yeah. So it's like I do like very technical kind of work
Oh,
here.
wow.
So it's just like
Is that graphite?
this guy on the right is actually the same character from the I don't know that oil
Ah.
painting you're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And it's like it's extremely detailed. Like this is like kind of
Yeah.
close up right here. You
Oh my
have to see
goodness.
this kind of stuff in person.
Wow.
Is there going to be a background, or is it just like is it going to be a white? Is this? Is there going to be? Are you going to add a background, Martha?
No background.
Okay.
I wanted to like show off the details of
Yeah.
the characters themselves to make them really show because the actual reference picture is from the same video game, of course, but like the background I think kind of blends with the characters a little bit too much, and I really want them to stand out and make them feel special.
Right.
Because just like before, this is a custom character. These are not real. These are just things that are made by us. So I made this drawing particularly to make us all stand out.
And what's the gesture they're doing? It's like this. They're making this kind of like that. What is that?
This DLC called Shadow of the Earth Tree, and that's like a new pose they do, and I'm just like, that is so cool. It's so weird. It's so different. And
So wait,
I just wanted to do it.
This is
all three of us doing it together.
Where did the pose come from? Where
I
did?
have no idea.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
It's just something you're doing now.
I love. Okay.
Yeah, they just do that gesture, and I'm just like, I gotta draw this. It's so interesting.
It's like throw football through me, you know. That's great.
That's right. Yeah, and I do this whole drawing with just like a mechanical pencil like this, and like just like one of these like sunglasses cloths and this high poly eraser.
Mm-hmm.
So
Just, I don't know why.
Simple stuff.
Another medium I like.
how long does it take you to complete an image when you're just with those tools?
Oh my goodness, that took me months.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it, but it took me
No,
forever.
it would have to, right? Because I can't see anything like that being done quickly. It's so detailed. The level of detail is shocking for me, anyway. Okay, thank you so much, Martha.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. And where you coming from? Where are you located right now?
I'm currently located at my place in Percy, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
about
okay.
an hour from here.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, it's really great to see. It's been a little while, so thank you for coming on and talking about your work with us.
I really appreciate the invite. Thank you.
I would like to thank Frank May for including me in his annual Pop Shop. This is year number 6.
I know, yeah.
In Washington, New Jersey, at his gallery, M Galleries. If you have any chance to drop in, please do. It's a beautiful show. I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. And I'm picking up okay. Okay, so a little background on me. I came here completely unprepared, unlike most people. I feel a little
oh no, that's what this is about.
Under the wire. So you're just going to get the unadulterated me. I don't have an art background, so to speak. I was in college to be a nurse, and many years ago, in another life, in another state, and I lost my funding. I had an opportunity, a 2-year window, to gain the necessary funds to drop back into my program, and was unable to raise the funds. So I found myself middle-aged with a fairly unusable college education, and I was desperately looking for a way to start over. And my sister had a business here and said, "Why don't you come up here and help through the summer, and I'll put you on a great pay scale, and you can make a lot of money, and then think about your next steps for what you want to do with your life." And I came here in February of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And a month later, I was in the middle of a pandemic, and I could not go back to my residence. My estranged husband and I were in the middle of filing for a divorce, and he was a kidney transplant recipient, and we thought that if I went back home, it would kill him. So we decided to, I was one of those weird people that got a divorce by Zoom, and I had to leave my belongings and my family and my friends and basically start over, start a brand new life in New Jersey with little more than a couple of books and the clothing on my back. And I managed to do that. But during hard lockdown, I was very lonely and anxious and depressed, and needed some kind of outlet for everything that I was thinking and feeling, and had no way to let it out. I didn't know anybody here, and I didn't have any friends. So I had done adult coloring books, you know, the flowers and all the detailed work. And so I had brought one of those with me. But as I was working in them, I quickly became very bored. I mean, a month in of doing nothing but sitting around coloring all day, I was desperately searching for anything that would give me more of a creative outlet. So one day I just decided, I think I'll just draw my own images to try to color. And I had no art background. And I don't even draw well. Like I can't draw faces or people or do what Martha does, or, you know, I can't do any of that. But I just picked up my pencil and my pens, and I began drawing these images and shapes, and it became a very meditative process that helped me alleviate my anxiety. So the more I did it, the more I enjoyed doing it. And then when the restrictions lifted from the pandemic, I was able to go into an art shop and actually get some alcohol markers and some watercolors, and really start experimenting. Some acrylic pens, and I loved the metallic acrylic pens. So I began doing a lot of line work with those. And so this is actually a lot of the work that's represented here is work from my first show called Entropy, and a couple of them are from Entropy Evolving, which was a second installation.
Yeah, and your talk's on your website.
And the talk is on my website.
Fellowship. Yeah,
that's right. This one's called Threads of Thought. I really think about my titles. Threads of Thought was just one of those, you know, you kind of have a thought, but there's 1,000 little threads that make up a singular thought. So when I'm creating, I don't ever start a project thinking that I know what it's going to look like at all. I literally just put a marker or a pen or something on paper, and literally my hand just begins to move. I find myself in this almost trance-like state where I'm not thinking about anything directly. I'm not focusing on anything directly. It becomes this very wonderful outlet for my subconscious. And then that sprung into other art mediums. So my mother was a writer, and I would write and journal some of my thoughts, much like Elie did. And then I would translate some of those things to paper. So some of these images do have a little more thought behind them when I started, but I never have a fixed image. I never know what something is going to be when I start. And I end up with a lot of things that, this is one thing I did learn from Frank. No matter what you think of your work, do not throw your work away. Don't throw it away. Okay? Because I used to say, oh, that line is wrong, and rip it apart. And he would be so upset.
I would see it in the trash. I'm like,
yes,
no,
yes.
Those are the good things.
Yes, yes.
Don't do that.
So one day, and I learned this because I said, okay, just so he would not yell at me anymore about it, I was putting it in a container, just a box, and letting them build up. And then one day I was like, I'm going to donate these for collage. And he pulls this beautiful piece of work out. And I'm like, what is that? And he was like, this is something you made.
That's right.
I was like, oh, I did that.
Yes.
I did that. So, as I've gone on, I do kind of multimedia now. I branched off into, we started with sculpture. I was already doing 2D work, and then I started doing sculpture. Frank, yes,
I love this piece.
I grew up in Mississippi, and Elie was talking about wild clay, and growing up in Mississippi, I was in northern Mississippi, and literally everything everything was built on this massive Mississippi clay bed. It's red clay. And my mother was always telling me, don't get dirty, you know, stay out of the mud. And she called them mud pies, but every time it rained, I was covered from head to toe in clay because I would go out and I was always fascinated at how slick it was. You know, it doesn't feel like dirt. It doesn't feel like mud. And it was very dense and hard to work with, and my hands were little, but I was always trying to turn it into something. And I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time. You know, and I asked my mother one day, I used to watch wheel throwing on PBS, people that would do ceramics on CBS. And I told her one day, I want to learn to do that, Mom. And she said, okay, well, give me some time. And she came home and she had this little Sculpey stuff. And I said, no, I want a wheel. And so she got me a toy wheel. And I said, no, I wanted the real thing.
You saw what it was.
I saw what it was, and I wanted the real thing. And she said, well, I don't know how to do that. And that was the end of it. And so I came here, and one day Frank had this 25-pound bag of clay stuffed under his desk. And I said, what is that? And I started working with it, doing pinch bowls and little things. And then I started doing freeform sculptures. And so this, if you can see it, is my work. Yep. But you want me to put it right here?
Yeah, for that too.
Right here, so it can be seen.
Perfect.
I hope everybody can see it.
Get a shot of it.
Yeah, I can't tell like what I'm doing up here.
Yeah,
though.
no, that's good. You're good.
See? So there we go. And here, you could pass that around maybe.
You want to pass it around?
OJ, if you want.
Okay.
If you want.
All right.
So my forms are very they're kind of a combination of animal and plants. They're some of them take on I don't know how to. They're amorphous.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't they represent there's definitely an animal element, but a lot of what I pull from for sculpture and for my 2D images has a lot to do with flora. You know, it's botanicals, it's trees and nature and things that I see growing out of the earth.
It's very Venus flytrap to me.
Yes, that one is kind of very Venus flytrap.
The work is a very Venus flytrap vibe.
Yes.
It's a plant that eats meat. You know?
Yes. There's something. Yes, Frank says that my work is somewhat. My freeform sculpture tends to be something that is inviting, but also has this sinister kind of element to it. So,
body snatcher.
Yeah, body snatcher.
I like that.
So I did that for a while, but in the winter, that's when I'm my most creative. So living in Florida, where I was from, I lived in Florida for 25 years before I came here. It was warm all the time. You only really have 2 seasons. You have a fire season and you have a hurricane season, and it's always hot and it's always humid. So even in the winter, it's very rare for it to really drop. I mean, in the daytime, it's in the 50s, and I used to bundle up and be so cold. And now if I went there, I'd probably be in a bathing suit. But it was a culture shock for me to be confined indoors for months on end. You know, I'd not had to do that in most of my adult life. I didn't know what to do with all the time. So even after the pandemic ended, and winter came, I was like, what am I going to do with myself? So winter is always a very prolific time for me for art creation. And I've expanded on these ideas a bit. I don't have any representations of what I'm working on right now because it's all still in a very early phase of development. I've got a lot of work I've started that I'm kind of at the midpoint and haven't completed yet, but they're much larger. So they're like 11 by 17s. They're much larger, or 12 by 17s. And I've got some canvases I'm going to start toying with. But but these were the very early seeds of where I'm going now. And my abstraction has kind of grown into something. My lines are always very tight at the beginning. I think it's interesting when you see how you develop as an artist. The line work is very tight and very precise, like you can see over there. The lines are very sharp and exact, and Yes. And everybody talks about, wow, it's so sharp and exact. It's like a graphic print. It's, but my new stuff now is very free form and splattery, and it's very organic compared to what I had. So it's going to be fun to kind of work with that and develop it into something new, the next phase. And then, of course, I've got 3 tubs of ceramics that we have to fire. And some of them have been glazed, and I don't even know what I put on them.
Well, we have a show scheduled for 2026. So you want to kind of give a little introduction to that, or do you want to keep that secret? Think about that process.
I'm not even sure.
This is good to hear.
I know, but I don't even. No, I need to marinate in that a little bit more. I would like to, but I'm a little, I have to be honest, a solo show. I've done solo shows before, but doing a solo show, in your flagship is, a little daunting for me. And I'm working on some things, but that'll be a surprise. That'll be a surprise.
Right,
We'll discuss more of that later, because I've actually got some other ideas I haven't even discussed with you yet.
Ooh, I like it. So that's September 2026.
Yeah,
that's what we got planned for this space.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
It's gonna be all wild work from
Lane. We're going bigger. I'll just say that.
I like that.
It's gonna be bigger.
Little teaser.
That's right.
Fantastic.
So
thank you,
questions? Anybody? No?
Oh yeah.
Yes, Kevin.
Please.
I love your work. It's
thank you.
Really,
Kevin.
it's really, really cool. And something Rich and I were talking about. How do you know when you're done with a piece?
That's a great question. And I think that the answer to that question is very different for each person. For me, when I look at it and it makes me feel happy and satisfied, like I've done something. If I'm not done when I look at it and I think, well, maybe I could just add. Okay. Or if you're doing a subtractive process, maybe I should take something away. If something's needling at you, at least me, when something's kind of needling at me and I feel like, oh, maybe just a little bit more, or maybe just a little bit less, then I know I'm not done. And you can't overwork a piece. So sometimes if I can't make my mind up and I'm on the fence about whether or not to add something more or to take something away, I will literally put the work down and walk away from it. And sometimes I might put it down for a few weeks because I've realized my eye is overworking the piece and I might ruin it. If you do too much to it, you will ruin good work. So I take a very conservative and patient approach and I'll restrict my access to that work. I'll cover it up so I'm not looking at it at all. And then I'll go back to it a week later or 2 weeks later or 6 weeks later. And then I'll take a look at it with fresh eyes. And when I look at it with fresh eyes, sometimes I realize, wow, I didn't need to do a thing. It's perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Do you mind if I share the the Pollock quote? That's my favorite response to that question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So it's a little blue. So, hey, Mr. Post. So my favorite response to that question, Kevin, is from Jackson Pollock. He was on the radio. Right. This is in the 40s, right, on the radio. And he was like, how do you know when you're done making a painting? And he thought for a second, he's like, how do you know when you're done making love? That was his response. That was his answer to, how do you know when you're done? Well, how do you know when you're done making love?
There is an afterglow. If you feel afterglow, okay, then you're done.
It's a
contentment that you feel when it's complete. And and there's nothing like it. Like you will know when you're done. You do.
That's right. All right. Any other questions for Lane? Oh yeah. Thank you.
So I said to Kevin, you know when you're done when you're done.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's
That's it.
Exactly right. You said in your earlier work that you had a lot of very tight
Yes.
straight lines. Everything was,
Yes.
very symmetrical
Yes.
and everything.
Yes.
And now you're doing a lot more free form, squiggle lines and
yes.
stuff like that.
And it's even looser than what's represented here.
Do you feel as though that is representative of maybe your well-being and your space and where you are now?
I'm glad you touched on that. That's a great comment to make, because yes, I was kind of circling around that and then never did get to it. So thank you. It is exactly that. I think that my art is very representative of where I am emotionally or spiritually, mentally, in a particular space, a particular time. Yes, things were very, exacting back then. Everything, my money, my divorce, my trying to find a place to live, trying to get a good job, trying to get health insurance, trying to. What am I going to do? And then I met Frank and everything got a little funky. And
right, same thing. Same
yes,
thing.
exactly.
Absolutely.
He does that. He has that effect.
That's right.
So
it's a conscious effort.
So now it's, yes, my art has definitely evolved into something that's much more free form and relaxed and
that's good.
Organic. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
good.
I think that as time goes on, we change as people, and art is a wonderful medium to reflect those internal changes. It's nice to look back on old work and see where I was and think about who I was. It marks time. Your work marks time. So so that's what I'm doing here. I'm marking time.
That's right.
In the best way.
Not only are you marking time, you're kind of collecting it and you're holding it. That's what art is. It's like
it becomes memory.
Yeah, collection of time.
Yes.
That you embed into the work, and that continues on beyond you.
Right.
I call it. I use the Horcrux. It's like it's a good.
Right.
It's a good Horcrux.
It's a good Horcrux. Yes. You're
for Harry Potter fans.
Yes. You're actually putting your energy and your time and your essence of who you are into a painting or a photograph or a film, and it lives beyond you. It is something that's becomes greater than this. It's a greater thing than the sum of its parts.
The Gestalt thing.
Yes, it's very Gestalt. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, thank
Unless
you.
there's more questions.
Yeah.
Hi, Post. Welcome.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I actually have a question if you don't
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Oh, hi.
Okay, Martha, for sure.
Hi.
I'm gonna mic you up, so go right ahead.
All right, so I love the Venus flytrap comparison. I thought that was a really cool biological inspiration, and I was just wondering if you had any other biological inspirations.
Well, I don't know if I would call them biological. I mean, I obviously I love trees. I gravitate to trees.
Yeah, your work actually, that's a very true.
Yeah.
The last sculpture you made.
Yeah, I made a sculpture that's
It's
not
life form
fired
with
yet,
more
and
tree
it
life.
almost looks like a tree made of tentacles.
Yeah.
So and I will be firing that one. It's too fragile to transport right now because it's just bone dry. But I love sea life. I love plant life. I do gravitate to trees, but I also am fascinated with weather because I lived in an area that had weather extremes. I mean, there are different extremes in New Jersey, but hurricane weather and living near a beach and seeing what that weather does to a skyline or a shoreline is very, I don't know, it changes you somehow when you live in something that's that powerful. It is a spiritual experience to stand there and experience nature's fury and live through it.
Yeah.
So I think that
nostalgic for hurricanes. I miss being.
Frank makes fun of
like,
me.
What?
Yeah, Frank makes fun of me
I
because
miss
yes,
being in a hurricane.
I actually do a little bit. Yes, I miss
I can't
being
understand that.
in. Well, I'm not saying a Cat 5. I don't want the finger of God on me. I just want,
Just nice, nice hurricane.
it's nice to mix it up a little. I'm just saying it makes you grateful and it heightens your senses. There's something about being in nature to the level that you kind of become, well, if you're in the ocean, you just become part of the food chain, but you become more aware of your mortality on a very basic level. It's not something that comes directly to the surface, but all of your senses suddenly become extremely heightened because you are aware that you're very much alive.
Yes.
So I do kind of miss that experience. But I have memories, so and that does
good enough for me.
that does pull, and for elemental things, I'm fast. I love fire. Visually, it's beautiful, and I love your nighttime paintings because of the way you paint warmth and glowing things. I love yes, the yellows that you use, the golden colors. You do a great job of capturing that, and my eyes are always drawn to it because it touches on that fire element that I'm fascinated with. So,
Nice. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Amazing answer, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Right on.
It was a great question.
Thank you.
All right. So am I?
Yeah.
Are we-
Any other questions before we move on? Because we have Mr. Post here.
Yes, James
famous.
Post is up next. I can't wait. You're next.
I'm James, and I put a few pieces in here. They're kind of like the drawings that I can do in between the work art stuff. So it's all kind of like tattoo imagery and ideas, and kind of internalizing the tattoo vocabulary and visual language, and then spitting it back out, and just kind of a few new and challenging ways. I feel like I want to like figure it out on the paper first before I go and like work on somebody's skins. So you want to try and kind of learn how to do the tiger or the dragon kind of from memory, so you can control the pose of it or whatever, so you can deliver a design later on. But I mean, these drawings are going to last longer than any of the tattoos.
For sure.
Not that, I mean, they'll last longer than me too. These little scribbles. So.
Well, unless you, wasn't there artists that they would donate their skin to be to be mounted?
Well, in Japan, there's like a medical
dark,
museum that has a bunch from like decades ago. But now apparently there's a company in Chicago that'll do it, and they'll even take maybe like just one tattoo, a little like palm size one if you want, or you can do the whole body, but that costs like 10 grand or something. So,
yeah,
or more.
Well, it would kind of make sense too, like if I, maybe I'm messed up or something, but if I had a full body suit tattoo, I'd want that to continue on, so. I mean, it may sound a little dark, but if I'm going to put all that effort into making this thing on my body, if I have an option to put it out.
So they preserve it.
Yeah,
they preserve it.
It's like vellum, that's just skin, so it would be.
But it's still a biological material, but they must put it in some sort of fixative, so it's.
The first books were animal skins.
Wow.
So
I don't think it's like tanned, like a hide. I think it's just kept in like formaldehyde or some embalming fluid.
Well, you mentioned tigers and dragons, and that was one of the shows we did back in Fellowship. So, yeah. So can you speak a little bit about the using, I guess, the cosmology? Like what imagery do you like to kind of repeat, and why? I think is an interesting thing.
What imagery do I like to repeat, and why?
Well, the dragon for sure. So I think that's an interesting one. I see that a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself though. But
well, you know what I mean, like not repeat, but reimagine.
Well, like I said before, you want to be able to draw something so enough times that you can draw it out of your head, and then you can imagine it in different poses for the design or for the page, and like I'm not an expert on the origins of the dragon or the mythology of it, or what it means in Japan versus some other country and that whole history. But something with like a fictional animal is that you can kind of mess with it and make it look however you want. Because isn't that what all art is? Play and fun. And, you know, sometimes to be shared.
I remember that the fact about the tiger is interesting. Can you speak to, you know, the that there it was considered a mythological creature, right? You know, there wasn't that a thing?
Well, like in Japan, they didn't have tigers
right.
natively, so they had skins that were brought from like India or somewhere. And so in the old like woodblock prints from like the 1800s, every time they had a tiger or a painting of a tiger, it would kind of have this flat face because they were just looking at like the rug of the tiger.
Right.
They didn't know what the real face was.
Yeah, they didn't. I guess they had cats maybe, but sometimes they look more like house cats than with stripes than tigers.
Yeah. And so can you make the connection when tattooing versus like, so paper versus skin, you know, like what kind of ways do you think about translating? Like, do you feel that you're more experimental with paper, you know, and then you kind of have to kind of edit it and get it down to where it's a skin-like thing, or does that factor into how you do a tattoo?
I use the iPad more because you can make a lot of changes and hit the go back button. That really helps.
Oh, yeah.
Saves
Very
a
useful.
lot of time.
And AI too. So
yeah, I'll use AI as a tool to kind of get inspiration for how I want things to look, maybe. You're always chasing down references. And there's such a wide range of stuff that people want. Like, I had two consults. One was a Balrog, and the other one was a snake and a rose.
A Balrog?
Yeah, from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
It's like a demon.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And so you're always looking for like shortcuts or places that you can find references or things that can save you a lot of time and save you a lot of head pain. It's just like a continuous thing, the job of drawing them up. So the reward for the work is more work. And so there's always something else impending on the horizon that has a deadline that you have to kind of get your head in the right place to draw. You got to kind of shift modes, like, oh, this one's going to be a colorful flower. Now this one's going to be a black and gray dragon that's huge. And this one's going to be a tiny thin line thing. So kind of rubber banding back and forth. I guess it's good exercise, but definitely wears on you for the week. My week's done now, so I'm pretty burned out.
Very good. Well, do you are you ever, when you're working, when you're tattooing, do you feel present? You know, instead of like thinking about what you're doing, do you ever feel, is that a moment of presence where you're addressing someone's, like, you know, image on their skin? That's, you know, there's a lot of I'm trying to think of the word.
Like, to apply it is like a magical experience.
Yeah,
you really have to devote your focus to what you're doing so you don't mess anything up. And talk about like observing or observational skills, or like paying attention, drawing from life or something. Your reference is in front of you, and you are looking at that and trying to render that onto a living porous surface, and someone's there and you're interacting with them and talking with them and trying to distract them from the pain, maybe, or having a nice conversation, and you meet all sorts of people. It's a great job.
Oh yeah. Well, can you talk about the work that's behind you? You know, that these artworks of Flash, right? So
these are like classic Bowery ones. I've got a lot of reference books, so I took the outlines, I changed them slightly, but barely, and then added some colors and some fun, like confetti or whatever. But
normally
they could be tattooed.
Normally, wouldn't have the confetti on a traditional Flash, right? It would be like just the isolated.
I mean, traditional is kind of like a loose term thing. I don't think too many people did confetti in like the 70s or in the 40s or something, when they only had like 5 colors. But definitely dots were a thing.
Yeah.
And this one I've outlined on somebody, but they haven't come back to get it finished. So
yeah, I love that you can take these and say, you know, I want this on my body. You know, I love that can translate. You know, that's an artwork that you can say, like, I like this I want this on I want to be with it my entire life. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting element of tattooing, and also like having flash on in the gallery.
Yeah.
'Cause it's,
Permanent fashion.
Yeah, because I think that, but not everything like these wouldn't be considered flash, right? The ones across the room. Right?
No,
So
I
they would
mean, but
be-
you could like turn them into something like that. Dragon could be a back piece or a sleeve for sure.
All right. I'm always curious about this because you have a fine art background and you ended up going into tattooing. And I know that you started doing that when you were in the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
Given your extensive tattoo history, I always like asking this of tattoo artists. What is what's your epic, the best, give me your fantasy of the best tattoo, like the tattoo that you would dream of doing. If you could only ever do one tattoo for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Like over and over?
No, just you get one tattoo and no more. What would it be?
Well, it wouldn't be much of a fantasy if it was only one left.
Oh yeah.
That would be a big drag, like I want to continue to do it.
Just your ultimate tattoo, like your ultimate scenario for a tattoo. What would it be?
There's not one. I mean, the whole point is that you're doing such a wide range of things over your career or whatever. Like,
okay,
you get to do a bunch of different things and make people's make their ideas come true, kind of, or whatever.
Is there something that you've wanted to do on a person that you haven't had a client come in and ask for it yet?
Well, yeah, like the wet dream is they come in without any tattoos and they want to have a full bodysuit, but they're committed. You don't know when they come in and say they want that. And it's daunting to draw something like that, but you do it in pieces anyway. But somebody would be like, I want to have a kind of thought out and uniform bodysuit, 2 sleeves, 2 leg sleeves, torso, back. That would be nice.
That's a lot of work.
I only need 12 of those people a year, and I'll be set.
So has that happened yet?
No, but it'd be.
Well, you've done large pieces. So what's the closest you've gotten?
Well, I had 3 18-year-olds come in the past month to get their first tattoo, and they want it this big. And it's you don't even know what that's going to feel like.
Oh,
you have no experience on it. You've got these big eyes. They're bigger than your mouth.
So how do you navigate that? Because you want to do a big tattoo,
You
right?
tell them the whole
You
experience.
tell them not to get a big tattoo?
No, I mean, they are down to get it. I'm going to try and deliver, but they need to know what they're getting into. They might feel that first hour and realize they made a terrible mistake. So, but yeah, all the drawing I've been doing and painting has been subservient to tattooing in the last few years. And it's endless, just like any artist drawing. And I kind of have an idea of where I want to develop, where your weak spots are. So it's really practice to get better at both rendering things, rendering the form, the human form in ways, and rendering anything really. There's a lot more work to be done. Because when you do infinity symbols for a month or something, then you kind of forget how to draw stuff. So you have to continuously practice and
push yourself.
Yeah, you have to actively practice and not just kind of scribble. You have to try and make things look how you want them to look and how they're supposed to look. Somewhere in between there, or how the client wants them to look. So you're both chained to that, and also, I mean, when you have the paper, you can do whatever you want. So they're a little more wonky because I'm kind of I'm in more of automatic mode or discover mode than I am in planning it all out, because I can only you fit all the drawing stuff in these artworks or whatever, you fit them in between all the real work deadline stuff for your job. So
right,
these take as much time as doing the tattoo work. So
right,
and then they just pile up in binders or folders, or
and find themselves in art shows.
Yeah, they find themselves in art shows. I try and bring you new work every time.
I think it's fantastic.
So,
Any other
So,
questions
yeah.
for Dave?
Questions?
Well, thank you, James, for sharing your work with us. I really appreciate you having, like you said, always some really fresh stuff, and I really love seeing what you come up with and how it evolves. So thank you for being here with us.
you're welcome, Frank.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Strafaci, and it's been an interesting year, the past year. I have been kind of focusing more on, I've had a couple of shows with Frank, and I've been a working artist for like 30 years, a long time, but in the last year, I decided to get certified in a nervous system modality, which I actually just got certified in earlier this week.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. And I kind of got to this point with my work where I was feeling like there was this other sort of part of me that wasn't being satisfied, and I wanted something that was sort of like bringing in sort of like bringing the body and the mind together. Like I felt that being in my studio working on and making work was really satisfying to me, but I've always been sort of like a kind of introverted, and I wanted something that was really like more deeply connecting to other people. So anyway, so I've been kind of focusing on like ways to like inspire creativity and how to mix that with the modality that I'm studying.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can you?
I don't know. I put the collage kits into the show because it's like just one thing that I've been doing this year. They're really creative for me to make. I mean, it's quite different from like my actual work, but right. I've always been really fascinated with collage because it's like I feel like when someone makes a collage, you can really see their thought process. Like it's like it's sort of like as if they showed you their thought process in images. Like you can see what they chose, how they tore the paper, like what's going on in their brain. It's like this very immediate like creative reaction. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So the packs have like, I think the ones at the gallery have like 130 pieces in them, and there's like a huge variety of imagery. There's vintage imagery, there's solid papers, there's text, there's black and white, there's nature imagery, some like sort of style focus, like vintage science text, like textbook imagery, maps, graphs. So it's like this huge variety, and I also make a point of sort of like, rather than I'm sort of making the choices already so I'm curating these packs. So you're not spending your time like going through like magazines to find imagery, but at the same time, like sometimes the images are cut out, and sometimes they're like just suggested. Sometimes I tear the paper to so that the edge isn't straight, which creates like it just inspires a different feeling.
Yeah.
So sort of cutting, sort of like sometimes I'll cut an image into strips so that you can see part of an image, and it's not spelling things out for someone, but that they can really like start to read into the image more and like bring their own interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I also love text. I've had quite a lot of work in the past that Frank's seen that I've had in the gallery that has like text within it. I had one, the show that I did in 2020 at the gallery,
I think it was called Claustrophobic Boudoir.
Yes,
that
that's
one.
right. That's right.
Where I had something in the gallery, which I especially, I think it was like right at the beginning of 2021 or something. Like people were just starting to go out, but I think I didn't actually have an opening for it. I think
It was like a virtual.
I can't remember exactly. I think we invited people in like after the opening or something. But
it was like that was a lockdown moment. Yeah.
What's that?
That was lockdown. Yeah, that was. Yeah.
So I did have this one part of the show where I had taken all of these book pages, like vintage book pages, and I painted out all of the words and left like specific words on like one or two words on each page. That and the book pages were just random, like they weren't anything specific. But within those pages, there was at least one or two words that reminded me in some way of the pandemic. So I would leave those words uncovered with paint, and then I did like a little drawing on each page or some kind of a visual mark that was an image rather than text. And then I had people choose a paper from the stack and add to it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
to me, that's very similar to the collage packs, where like a word is suggesting. I don't know. I think my idea is like, how many different ways can I bring creativity to someone? Like what are the ways that you can like inspire people with imagery, with words, you know, to get their creative juices kind of flowing.
Oh yeah.
So I try to do that in the packs, like in as many ways as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the aspect of that. The work is that it's an artwork that's a way to make artwork. You know, I really, you know, I love that's an element that's very like, you know, it's a meta way to a meta contribution. It's not an artwork directly, but it's a kind of like the Tristan Zara poem. You know, it's how to make a Dadaist poem as a poem.
Right. Like Dada poetry.
So it's got that kind of vibe like Dadaist, which actually Dadaism and collage, that's a huge connection between those two genres, right? So
well, also collage is so much for me. It's like such a combination of like sort of conscious choice and then like happy accidents, and like, you know, it's like you're making a choice, but then when you make a choice and you're collaging like half of an image with another image, like you don't get what you thought you were going to get. No. You know what I mean? Like it's like all of a sudden there's like all these like new imagery comes to you, and that might take you in a totally different direction. It's like very much it's like kind of riding the wave, you know, making choices and then kind of going with the choices, and then maybe painting out certain things. Also, I mean, the kits are just paper. I also do fabric ones too, for like great. Fabric collage and like patchworking and stuff. But in my own work, I often am using, you know, drawing and painting also. I like to get my hands in there, you know, like actually making the marks along with the found papers and things.
Right on.
So.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. So, anybody have any questions for Nicole? Want to share? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just curious. Hey, Nicole, how are you doing?
Hi, Elaine. How are you?
I'm okay.
I missed your talk. I was on like another page or something.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Technical disaster on my end.
No,
Discord can be daunting.
I'm recording everything, Nicole, so I'll send it right to you once I get a process. If you want to.
Okay. All right, cool.
You know, I've always been curious because you lean so hard into making your art financially viable. I see a lot of artists that art for them is just kind of a you know, they have a day job and then they do art, and art is kind of their passion project. But for you, it's your living. So I'm fascinated with, believe it or not, I'm fascinated with your collage packets, because to me that's such an insanely marketable way to get artwork out there and to encourage creativity. So I'm actually just curious, where did you get such a fantastic idea? Because they seem like they've been very consistently successful in all of the other ways that you do create. I see these packets like online, and you're advertising them and they're selling out. And where did you get that idea?
First of all, thanks for your question. I don't. I actually don't think I've been motivated really about like. I think first and foremost, I'm motivated just to make my work.
Yes.
But I'm also very, very interested in inspiring people to create also. So, I mean, so it happens to be something that's saleable, but like I'm not interested in like I did go through a whole period where I was like printing my work on like different things and pillows and things, and like it just started to feel like it was, I don't know, like there's a fine line between making money from your work, which is great. Everyone wants to do that, right? But then also like feeling good about how you're making the money.
Yes.
You know, does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely.
Like I'm not plastering it on like coffee mugs and things. You know what I mean? Like, but like to me, like putting it on a pillow felt more like it was like a canvas in your home, sort of, that you could like enjoy like as an art piece, you know?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, the collage kits, it just felt like, I don't know, I had tons of materials in my studio. That was one reason. Like I had to like, I wanted to share what I had, you know?
Oh, that's a fantastic way to repurpose materials.
Yeah, I wanted to share what I had and just inspire people. I don't know.
That's a fantastic.
That's a noble thing.
It is.
For sure.
It is.
And I like making the outsides of them a lot, because that's what you see.
Yes.
You know, like you don't see all the papers in between. So the outsides are really fun. Like when I'm putting them together, like I like, it's just, the outsides are really fun because I put like an image in and then I put another image next to it, and it's like they surprise me, you know.
Right.
So it's like creative for me to make them too.
Right.
And I love your use of vintage imagery.
Yes.
All of the vintage publications that you use, and old fabrics and textiles, and the ones that you use when you're using textiles, they're all so fun and interesting, and it's stuff you don't see every day. I love that if someone can go into a Michael's and pick up a collage kit, but it's not going to exactly. It's not to me, that's not true collage. Okay. True collage is what you're doing, where you're sourcing from all of these widely varied materials.
That's a good point, because you can buy stuff like on Etsy that's like Michael's-ish, you know, like, but they're
they're very commercial.
People give me stuff all the time because they're like, "Oh, Nicole could use this," you know. It's like it's a little out of control, actually. But I have like a stack of like Life magazines from the '60s. I have like 17 magazines. I have old National Geographics. Yeah, it's fun to find the imagery. It's really, I have like a huge folder, and it's got like all the it's like divided into sections, you know, like nature, and so I make like, I compile the folder and then I make them from there. So,
well, I love them.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank
you.
Thanks for your question.
Any other questions for Nicole? Curiosities? All right. All right. So, Nicole, how can we find you? What are your ways of connecting and seeing what you do?
Right now, you can find me on Instagram. I'm redoing my website right now, so it's not functioning, but it will be at NicoleStrafaci.com
Right on.
in the new year. But my Instagrams are Nicole Strafaci, and then the other one is Pickle in a Shoe Vintage Collage.
I love that.
which is more clothing stuff, like handmade clothing pieces, and then Nicole Strafaci has art, like more fine art on it.
Right on, right on. All right. Well, Nicole, thank you for sharing your work, and
Feel better.
yeah, please feel better. Yeah, thank you for coming on, even though you're a trooper. You're a trooper. So thank you for joining us tonight.
It's good to be a part of it. Thank you, Frank.
Of course,
Thanks
of
for
course,
inviting me.
of course. All right. So thank you very much. Yay!
Hello, Pop Shop Artist Talk attendees and lovers of local art. My name is David LaMorte. I am one of the many talented artists that you may find here at the shop at M Galleries. So every year, Frank puts on a Keith Haring inspired showing of basically all of his art community that he's built over the past 10 years, and shows us all in kind of a big kind of family get together where each of us can put on about 10 pieces, and the show rotates. So I might come in and swap some things out. There will definitely be some pigeons in the near future. Unfortunately, I can't be there because I double booked myself. I have a show I have to go to in Brooklyn. Not an art show. I'm not fancy. I'm attending a podcast taping because I'm that kind of nerd. But so what I love about this show is just all the different artists with different skills, backgrounds, points of view, all kind of showing together. It's also a really great time if you are looking to buy something that will kind of keep the money in your own community. It's a great way to do that, is to spend money on a local artist, because we're terrible with money and we're probably going to spend it on something down the street. Like, I don't think if you buy a painting from me, I don't think that money is getting past the coffee shop down the street. Probably knowing me. I make terrible financial decisions. But some of the pieces I have submitted are new pieces. All are small and affordable. And I will be definitely swapping them out soon enough. You can also purchase some things from the gallery shop as well. There's definitely stickers and patches, and a bunch of stuff also available through ngalleries. I want to say .org. I can't remember off the top of my head because I just automatically type it and my browser just finishes it for me. I love the show. I love the other artists in it. There's a few pieces I know I'm going to be leaving with, and if you buy them from me before I get to them, you win, but I will still leave with something because I love the work there. So, yeah, mostly what I do is basically I took no painting classes in college despite going to art school. And I am a sculptor who taught himself how to paint. And now, because I was thinking, I'm going to be a sculptor and installation artist. I don't want to be one of those hoity-toity painters. And now all I do is paint and teach children how to paint. So that is my cosmic punishment for being closed-minded about other creative people. So I feel like the punishment justifies the crime, because I do kind of enjoy it, but you can tell that, like, not really my forte. But my ideas are good, and I like to think I'm fairly witty. I know that's not true, but I like to think that. So definitely take a look at all of the artists' work. There's things here that you cannot find in your normal store. There are artworks that are not only whimsical and funny, but also artistically made by artistically gifted people, and are really interesting things that I think are hard to find other places, especially in the world where we live in, where everything seems to be manufactured en masse. It's nice to see something that was actually well considered, time spent on it, and it's something that you can enjoy for the rest of your life, because art just makes people happier. Having real art in your house is better for you than having fake art in your house. Or you can do what I do and go to thrift stores, buy fake art, and make real art on top of it. Some of which you can buy here. Thank you. Thank you, Frank, for having me, although virtually. I